So anyway, in regards to this recent copyright claim on my video, and I've shown multiple times how it's actually connected to the date 5/13 that they're trying to show me. This isn't the first time that YouTube has done this to me. And I have this whole playlist here. It's a lot of information, but when I first started making videos, one of my first videos I ever put up was about Ramona Quimby and the movie The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. And I had put that video up on 9/19, which is the 262nd day of the year. YouTube then did not give me a copyright strike on the video. They gave me one that same day. I fixed it, put it back up. I didn't get another copyright strike until March 15th of 2015. And I thought that was pretty strange. They waited 177 days. And then out of nowhere, I get one on the Ides of March. Anyway, the 177th day just so happens to be 6/26, June 26th. And I didn't understand it, and I made a little video talking about it. I fixed the video again, I put it back up. They never copyright, nothing happened until one day I was at work on June 8th, and randomly I got a copyright strike. Which was interesting because June 8th just so happened to be 262 days after 9/19, the day that I had originally put that video up. So I knew they were showing me this 262, and I said, I think there's going to be something significant that happens on June 26th. And we just so happened to get Obama singing Amazing Grace at Clementa Pinckney's funeral. We also got the legalization of gay marriage, a pretty big deal. I also mentioned a lot of the 262 or just 62 in regards to Queen Elizabeth. She became the queen on 2/6 of 1952. Then she even turned 26 years old that year. She was born in 1926. Her coronation of being the queen is on 6/2. Actually 62 years ago until 6/2 this year, which will be the 63rd anniversary. Queen in gematria equals 62 the big way, 26 the small way. But also in regards to Pope Francis, because when he came to the United States, he began that trip going to Cuba, and he went to Cuba on September 19th, the 262nd day. Obama magically goes to Cuba on March 20th, which is 26 weeks, 2 days later, or also 6 months, 2 days. And remember, he was the first president to go in 88 years, and the last one was John Calvin Coolidge. John Calvin Coolidge in gematria even equals 88. But anyway, so you get the significance of this 9/19. Seems like they're really showing me 9/19 as well. And I talked about even James Garfield, the president who got shot at a train station and then died 79 days later. He died on 9/19. But anyway, I went back through this playlist and I was kind of just looking at some of the videos, trying to figure some stuff out, how it might coincide with this new copyright claim. And I remembered that I made a video on YouTube agents, and I said I made this other video right after it about how it connected to the death of Nancy Reagan. I had made a blog post on March 5th, the day before Nancy Reagan died, about Steph Curry and 9/23 stuff. And of course, Pope Francis went to the White House at 9/23. On 9/23 in 2015, 9/22, the day he arrived in the United States, was even his 923rd day as being the Pope. But anyway, so I made these videos here because I had some weird comments on some of my old videos right after I put that Steph Curry 9/23 post up. And I could just tell there was something they were trying to tell me with these comments or whatever. And then the next day when Nancy Reagan died, I figured it out, that they were actually just showing me the 9/19 date again. And I'll show you that in a second, but the reason why Nancy Reagan is so significant, Nancy Reagan in gematria equals 103, and you don't see this happen hardly ever. In Jewish gematria, she equals 618, and also in English gematria, 618. You just don't see people add up to the same thing in two different forms of gematria. And I thought it was interesting, so I typed out 618, and 618 just so happens to equal 919 and 199. A lot like September 19th if you do it as a date. 19/9, 9/19. Also, in regards to her equaling 103, September 19th, September 19th just so happens to be the day that leaves 103 days until the end of the year. Also the 262nd day. So anyway, what led me to the Nancy Reagan showing me to the 919 was because of these comments, and it was on my Xavion Dobson video, but also on my Carrie Orozco video, and there was a whole bunch of stuff I talked about with that, but one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was that her birthday, she's an Omaha police officer who got shot last year, right? The Omaha police officer. And whatever, Orozco equals 92, I'll just tell you really quick. Orozco equals 92. There was a big deal about how she had just had a baby 92 days before. Can't even remember it all. There's lots of, she was 29 years old. There's lots of 92 and 29. But her birthday was just so happened to be 9/19. And as I did a whole bunch of research into it, I found out that the last time an Omaha police officer had died was Jason Ty Pratt on September 11th, 2003, but he got shot that day, and then he didn't die until September 19th. So there was this 9/19 connection between them. So I just went back to this story, and I typed in some of these names. Look at this in gematria. Jason Pratt. 134. A lot like the 134th day I keep talking about, May 13th. The guy who shot him was Albert Rucker. 134. Interesting too, this guy. His name in Jewish gematria, 586, just like Blood Moon Tetrad. Just found that kind of interesting. Also, another thing that stuck out in this story, and I mean, I'm not sure if it's completely connected, but I know that they're trying to show me this 9/19 stuff. Especially, I mean, just what are the odds? The 134 comes back up, and then this story about Omaha, and I even mentioned Omaha equals 228. Let's just type it in. I just mentioned that last, because I talked about the blood moons, and I said the very first blood moon of the tetrad last year, or in 2014, was 2 years, 28 days before 513, and the last one on 9/28 of 2015 was 228 days before 513. And I mentioned how Omaha has a gematria of 228. In regards to Omaha, though, it is a significant place, you know. There was race riots. It's also the birthplace of Malcolm X. So, I don't know. A lot of that's going on, especially since the Super Bowl and the X stuff. And I also mentioned how Obama, right after his State of the Union speech, the next day he went to Omaha, Nebraska. And just listen to the first thing that he says. So I mentioned how I'm from Iowa, but I live really close to Omaha. I pretty much might as well even be from, Omaha or whatever. And then I got on CNN and they had the wildfire story that the wildfire smoke finally reaches Iowa. It just seemed kind of weird, but listen to what Obama says in his first thing he mentions in his speech here.
I'm going to try to make it a little shorter. I know some of you are antsy to get back to Iowa. Anyone claiming...
I know some of you are antsy to get back to Iowa. It's also interesting that Ben Carson was in Iowa, and his staffer, Braden Joplin, who died in a car wreck or whatever, was just a few days before this. And they both have gematria, gematria of 57. Moon equals 57. Prince died on the night of a full moon at the age of 57. Obama's even the 57th term president. And I guess it just sticks out to me, I made a whole video on the Joplin stuff, how he died on Janis Joplin's birthday or something like that. I also mentioned how it connected to the Joplin, Missouri tornado. So, who knows if this is some type of foreshadowing for a natural disaster in Omaha or some type of false flag attack, or, I don't really know. But just find it interesting that he would mention that about Iowa, and then also he goes to Omaha the very next day. And then with all the Black Panther stuff going on in the news, even I forgot on the movie Deadpool, the theme song is X Gonna Give It To Ya. So, they're just throwing that X in there subliminally like crazy. But anyway, back to the story here. It said one of the big deals was that the guy who shot Jason Pratt, he was arrested 141 times before he murdered this guy. That's a whole lot of times to be arrested for one. But 141, a very interesting number, because I talked about World War III in the last video as well. World War III the small way equals 69, another theme that they've been running a whole lot, but with the back-to-back and stuff, but also World War III equals 141. Another interesting 141 is June 14th, 2016. This is another day that I have mentioned a whole lot. That's Donald Trump's 70th birthday. It's also that Pope Francis's 1189th day as Pope. Another very interesting 141 is this judge theme that I've been talking about. I talked about how in November we had this Texas judge right here, Julie Kokorek, who got shot outside of her house. Her name in gematria equals 141. It's also 51 the small way, just like Antonin Scalia, who died on a date numerology of 51 and whatnot. But anyway, this lady was shot 14 weeks, one day before Scalia died. And then Obama nominated Merrick Garland to replace Scalia or whatever. And that got the nomination day just so happened to be on the 141st day of the NBA season. Also 141 days before Obama's 55th birthday. Also, the day that Carrie Orozco died from this other shooting that I was talking about, the day that she died was May 20th. So this year, that will be the 141st day on the 1-year anniversary of her death. So, not trying to get you confused, but just interesting. This 141 keeps coming up. But anyway, another interesting thing about the 9/19 date, so my recent copyright claim just so happened to be 91 days after I put my video up on 2/6. It was 2/6. They gave me a copyright claim on 5/7, like 57. But if you write out September 19th, it equals 91. If you write out 919, it equals 103. Remember, September 19th, the day with 103 days left in the year. Nancy Reagan equals 103. World War II also began on 9/1, September 1st. So then, I talked about how the 919 led me to 626. I'll pull it up on this one. It led me to the day that Obama sang Amazing Grace, 9 days after 9 people were shot. Abraham Lincoln died 9 hours, 9 minutes after being shot. The first president to die in office died on 4/4. He was the 9th president. The next president to die in office will be the 9th president. Obama's also 9 presidents after JFK, the last president to die in office, who was the 44th term president. Obama is the 44th president. But anyway, if you go from that day, 2015, to 5/13, just so happens to be a span of 322 days. And remember, Obama was in Cuba on 3/22 when the Belgium attacks happened. If you go from the Belgium attacks to 5/13, a span of 52 days, but also 1 month, 21 days. The word revelation equals 121. It's also interesting in regards to him going to Omaha the day after his State of the Union. He went on 1/13, 121 days before 5/13. Also, the day, if you go from the day that he went to Omaha to 3/22, the day of the Belgium attacks, just so happens to be a span of 69 days. If you write out Belgium in gematria, Belgium equals 69. Also, if you go from 5/13 to the 6/26, so it's 322 days from the day that he sang Amazing Grace and gay marriage was legalized. But if you go from 5/13 to the anniversary of that, it's 44 days before 5/13 is. So, interesting, you know, all this death with the 44 days before he sang Amazing Grace, 9 days after 9 people were shot and all that. Also, you know, this day to 4/4 is a span of 9 months, 9 days. But I found it also interesting that it's 1 month and 13 days. A lot like the day that he went to Omaha, January 13th. And look at that. This is how it all, if you've been following what I've been talking about in my previous videos, I know there's a lot of information, but I've also mentioned this 165 and how it connects to 5/13. The day Obama went to Omaha to 6/26, 165 days, also 5 months, 13 days. So, you know, who knows? I'm just trying to show some patterns. I know these videos are long, but there's a lot of information and it's all interrelated. And it just makes me wonder. I mean, I don't know if it's about Omaha or not. Sure seems to be connected to his visit to Omaha at least. You know, and like I said, Omaha has connections to Malcolm X, also the Black Panthers and race riots. Also, just interesting, I just typed out some stuff in gematria just to see what it was. Omaha ISIS attack equals 51. We've seen a lot of 51 around death. Donald Trump, like I said before, is even 15 years, 51 days older than Obama. Queen Elizabeth surpassed Queen Victoria for longest reigning British English monarch on 9/9 of 2015. Queen Victoria died 51 years, 15 days before Queen Elizabeth became the queen. Pope Francis turned 15 years old in 1951. So there's a lot of significant 51 stuff. Also, I wrote out Nebraska ISIS attack that equals 57. We've seen a lot of the 57 as well. I talked about the blood moon theme. Also the death of Prince. Lots of 57 as well. My last copyright claim was even on 5/7. Also in regards to Belgium, I guess, I didn't even realize, or I mentioned it before, but I forgot. World War III equals 69, just like Belgium. The guy who even killed Carrie Orozco was Marcus Wheeler. Marcus Wheeler just so happens to equal 151, a lot like the 15 and 51. And sorry for moving around, I'm just finding stuff as I'm going through here. There was a Russian plane wreck on March 19th, just days before Obama goes to Cuba. It said 62 aboard reported dead. So once again, the 62 stuff. Also, it says they redirected the flights 141 miles south. It even says at local time, 1:41 is when it aborted its first landing attempt. CNN also tells us that it was 1:20 a.m. on March 19th, even though it was reported on March 18th or something. Yeah, March 18th Eastern time or whatever. So if you go from the last big plane story about the Russia or whatever, was on October 31st, 141 days before that. And also, May 20th, like I said, is the 141st day this year. If you go from that Russia plane to May 20th, a span of 62 days, also 2 months, 1 day, 21 also equals 141. And when you think of World War III, I mean, you think a lot of Russia. And then with Obama going to Cuba just a few days later, it also makes you think of the Cold War. You know, the word plutonium also just so happens to equal 141. I've mentioned how it's the gas for time travel, but also, you know, plutonium in regards to the atomic bombs and whatnot. So, pretty interesting. Also, they used plutonium 239. So, 239, we're in the 239th year of the United States even. So, like I said, just pointing out some more things I noticed and some possible things that it could have to do with, I guess. I'm just wondering why they keep showing me the 513, but it sure seems like a significant date no matter what happens, so I guess we'll see, you know. I guess one thing for sure, I'm not going to go to Omaha on Friday, so. But I don't know. I'm going to make a couple other videos, get off of this topic for a little bit, just to give myself a little bit of a break from it. I've been thinking about it too much, so whatever. Have a great one.